Wallace exclaimed that he had picked all the questions and the candidates were not aware of them at the beginning of the debate. The debate started off in what seemed to be a calm manner. Candidates seemed respectful and professional at the beginning few minutes. However, when Biden begins to claim that Trump wants to take away medical care for millions of Americans and reverse Roe v. Wade, is when Trump begins to quit back and address the realities of Biden's claims. An article on findlaw.com explains that Roe v. Wade is not easily at risk of being reversed. According to the site, the court cannot return to the same case and change its mind, and the legal doctrine of stare decisis, I may be saying that wrong, which is Latin for the decision, let the decision stand. Means that later members of the court are reluctant to specifically overturn prior rulings. The article that came out shortly after Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away, it continues to say that while many politicians have elected conservative justices, it hasn't ever affected the standing decision of Roe v. Wade. I think Trump just had those realities in his, probably had those realities at the forefront. And knowing this, I find it the reason that he fired back the way he did, saying it won't be affected by that being his Supreme Court pick. As the debate continues to discuss healthcare and how Trump has terminated the individual mandate with Obamacare, which is saving lower-income families who can't afford Obamacare a substantial amount of money each month. According to an article by The Hill, under the ACA, Americans not enrolled in a qualifying health insurance plan as defined by the federal government must pay a penalty of $695 per adult or 2.5% of household income, whichever is higher. IRS tax data show more than 6.6 million filers were required to pay the Obamacare penalty in 2015. Those penalized paid a total of more than $3 billion for not being enrolled in a health insurance plan. Lower income and working class Americans were hit particularly hard by the fine. The adjusted gross income of 36% of the 6.6 million people required to pay the penalty was only $10,000 to $25,000 a year. Nationally, families enrolled in bronze plans must endure a maximum out-of-pocket cost of $13,905, which is far more or less than what most people can afford to pay. If families can't afford to use many of the benefits offered by a health insurance plan, then what's the point of having the insurance? It's these sentiments that caused Trump to become defensive and reassure that he does have a plan and is going to find a better healthcare solution on top of all he's already done for healthcare. It is around this mark where Biden begins to say a term I heard him repeat many times throughout the night. He doesn't have a plan. He has no plan. But Trump insists that he does have a plan for a better, more affordable healthcare for Americans. Biden then says that Trump hasn't lowered drug prices for anyone, when in fact, according to an article by Helio on healthcare and politics, it states that the executive order that Trump signed September 13th states that Medicare Part B and Part D drug prices will align with the lowest cost of a drug that is sold to any country in the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development that has a comparable per capita gross domestic product, meaning that if it is sold for cheaper somewhere else in the world, we should be able to get it for that same price or similar price here in America. However, as one would imagine, pharmaceutical companies are massively opposed to this and are going to fight it in court. So Trump being successful in this could take months, if not longer. According to the article, also, due to the wording of his executive order, there are loopholes that could be taken, which would result in the pricing never actually changing for these drug prices. Overall, though, reports say that it is too soon to tell. In answering the questions Dr. Hendricks has given us, when it comes to how the candidates handled themselves and if their behavior helped or hurt their campaigns, Biden refused to answer the question on whether he would pack the court, and Trump refused to call the Proud Boys radical white supremacists. I do think that maybe had somewhat in part to do with the fact that the group themselves have denounced white supremacy. The Proud Boys have denounced white supremacy and are against racism. Whether or not Trump knew that may be the reason why he wouldn't just straight up call that group out. I don't know. I don't think anything has come out on that that I know of. But Trump did say that he does not support white supremacy, as he has said in the past before. I do not think the way that the moderator posed this question to Trump was fair. I think it was a left field thing to ask Trump, and I think it associated him with a label that he has already spoke avidly against in the past. However, overall, I think that the moderator asked relevant and fair questions for the most part. I did find it odd that for the entirety of the debate, he referred to Biden as Vice President Biden instead of former Vice President Biden. Biden even responded to a question on why he hasn't called the Democratic leaders of cities and asked for the cease of rioting and looting that has lasted for months and months. And he explained that he currently, in response to the moderator asking him that question, he said, "I currently do not hold public office." As to say, I wouldn't hold any weight and be able to do anything about that because I don't hold public office. Yet Wallace continues to call him Vice President Biden, which I just found a little odd. I think that Wallace did his job as a moderator to control time limits on questions and answers the best he could. I also think he asked a majority of fair questions. However, when it came to questions about Breonna Taylor and questions over white supremacy, I felt as though he was negatively going at Trump with these questions. For example, he asked Biden, "Do you believe that there is a separate but unequal system of justice for blacks in this country?" However, he never let Trump answer that question or asked him that question. Instead, he asked Trump why he ended racial sensitivity training. This, I feel, was a gatekeeping method to keep Trump looking like the racist and keep Biden looking empathetic and conscious of alleged racial issues. This, I feel like, showed a bit of an agenda in the news media to paint Trump as a racist. Biden called Trump unpresidential. He said he wouldn't shut up and told the president to shut up several times. On the one hand, I can see where he was coming from because he was getting interrupted. On the other hand, due to what Biden was saying, I see why Trump was trying to explain the actual truth on his and his party's actions. See what Biden was saying because Biden was, saying everything he was saying was a lie, or that's a lie, this is a lie. So I see why Trump was trying to explain the actual truth on his and his party's actions. I think that Trump could have done less interrupting, and I think that Biden could have done less pandering. Biden looking into the camera and asking about empty seats at people's dinner tables because of loved ones lost to COVID. I feel like this was a mental case of framing, as mentioned in Chapter 8. Biden attempts to paint a picture of someone who has lost their loved one to COVID but didn't even get to tell them goodbye and could only talk to them through a phone on the other side of hospital glass. It's these attempts to persuade, persuasion was also discussed in Chapter 8, Americans through these heart-touching visuals that his team can properly turn around COVID, potentially saving our loved ones' lives. Overall, questions, I would say about 70% of them were relevant, and I felt like the majority of them were objective, and that they focused on legitimate newsworthy issues. If you all want any more information, on the articles that I have, you're welcome to go to the links that I will put in this video submission. I thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate you all listening. Stay safe and take care.